It's 1:30 or so perhaps we'll get started. Don't make me get angry. Yeah. Perhaps we can get started if we'd like to take our seats. Welcome back to the afternoon sessions, and I would like to introduce our judges. Dominique Bureau, the WMO Climate Water Department. He's the Chief of Basic Systems in Hydrology. Leisha Weimer, Women for Water Partnerships. This session's theme is on youth, and it's moderated by Mohammed Wasif Bashir, Pakistan Youth Parliament for Water, Lindsay Aldako Manor, World Youth Parliament Water President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gauds. Thank you very much for the inviting on this stage. And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Very much good afternoon. So, as we know, this is the first Leave No One Behind Summit being held in Geneva by the collective and joint venture of multiple stakeholders. As per the situation of universal human rights to water and sanitation, it's very important agenda for the nation, as well as because this is the main theme of UN Water 2019, Leave No One Behind. So when the matter of water, this is not the business of some field, this is the business of everyone, and it needs the attention of everyone. So with the collective wisdom and joint venture, it is quite possible to achieve the global agenda to water and sanitation in its real-time framework. So I am quite happy that Waterlex and its partner has tried their best to include youth in this session, in this summit, which is showing the extraordinary commitment of our seniors to ensure that youth is also part of this journey. So multiple stakeholders are working together, including the governments, donors, civil societies, youth, and here we have very good agenda of today, that youth and intergenerational dialogue is going to be done. So here we have Ms. Lindsay, the President of World Youth Parliament for Water, and she will tell us what the youth is doing globally and what is the vision. So I would like to hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wasif. And on the global agenda for youth and leaving no one behind, these projects that are being presented, we're excited how they will impact the access to clean water for youth among the nations. But on the global agenda, we as a parliament will also be pushing to make notion of the decisions and the ideas of youth to be included in the decision-making processes. So before we begin and before I introduce our first speaker, I would like to propose a question for us all to think about. And to what degree are you willing to incorporate the ideas and the visions and the decisions of youth into your organizations, into your civil societies, and to your operations? Thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Dr. Jos Raphael. Dr. Jos is a social scientist and water sector professional for the past 24 years in Kerala state of India. He is the director of an NGO called District Rainwater Harvesting Mission of Chichur district for the last 10 years. He has worked as a local consultant for the International Water Management Institute in Colombo, Sri Lanka, and he is focused on implementation of groundwater recharge program through rainwater harvesting in and around Kerala state of India. So thank you so much.
Right, I'll start. Now, this is in fact, the second part of my the presentation. In fact, the first part really comes at the 2 o'clock in the session. But anyway, this is the tail ender. Now, well, I work with district rainwater harvesting mission in my part of the state called Kerala, in the Thrissur district. What we do, we harvest roof rainwater, and that goes to the wells and the tube wells. So the water gets improved, the water level gets improved. So that's the whole story. Anyway, I'll come just directly to the fluoride mitigation from the water wells. Now, the problem is the fluoride in the drinking water above permissible levels from water wells. So now you see the picture of the map of India over there, in which some spots, hot spots are there. Whereas the Kerala, the part of the place I represent, is in the down below, at the end of the tip of the India, where we get a lot of rain, but it has got typical features. Now, let me come to okay. Now, I just introduced you what is a water well. Now, you see the picture of the water wells. Now, it's being dug under the Mahatma Gandhi Employment Guarantee Program by women. You can just see. Still, this is a process is going on. So the dug wells are very close to us. It's the major measure for our local water security. So this is just to show these are the wells we make use. Even I make use of the well water from my home. We got a homestead well. So we got, all right, I'll come to that. Okay, then let's see the map again, the Kerala. You can see the type of wells and well water. Now, the type of traditional water wells in Kerala, on the top you will see on the left side, this is a coastal well with rings, and the the plateau, that's again from the shallow aquifers. On the other side, you'll see a small pond kind of thing. In the coastal well, we make use of this kind of small ponds. People still make use of this kind of thing. We are not worried about the bacteriological contamination from these wells, and what we do, we boil the water to the 100 degrees Celsius for drinking purpose. So we didn't abandon the wells. Anywhere, many parts of the world abandoned the wells, but we didn't do that. Around 6.5 million wells are there in Kerala. So that's the most important part of water security. Now the problems are, in the summer season, you see in the down, the wells in the coastal wells, they get saline issues. In the middle, you see the groundwater table going down, there may not be some enough water, and the small ponds getting dried up. And the climate change issues are there. So these are the main problems. Now the fluoride is a recent problem. Now one well for each household, that's a typical pattern there, by and large. Nowadays some reductions are there, but by and large, one well for each house. On the doorstep, we will have a well. That's one. Now, see the map of Kerala, it has got a coastal belt of 580 kilometers. It receives 3,000 millimeters of average annual rainfall. 6.5 million wells I mentioned already, around for 7.5 million households. We are drawing water from unconfined aquifers, and the water level below ground level seen between 2 meters to 5 meters in the coast, and between 5 to 20 meters in the midland plateaus and highlands. And we have got the better human development index, and social and education, health sectors much improved. Now, this is just, I'm coming to the fluoride mitigation just after that, soon after this. Now, the water scarcity is one of the issue. The groundwater table depletion is the water quality issue, the saline ingress and iron content. So we make use this method. We harvest roof rainwater as well as surface runoff also, and that goes through a filter, then that leads to the dug well. So this way we are improving the groundwater. We are addressing the major issue by this method, groundwater recharging and well recharging. So the benefit is that the saline or the brine ingress and iron content events seem reduced. And the saline reduction out of dilution happens, and whereas the iron reduction due to the aeration, when the water falls from the top to the bottom, some sort of aeration happens, then dissolved oxygen levels that improves. So because of that, these matters, around 30,000 units of this kind of well recharging we ourselves have done for the past 10 years. We have been doing it for the past 10 years. Now the government has taken it up, they're scaling it up by their own. So now that's the situation. Now you can see the couple of pictures of the well recharging structure with filters and without filters. For the first rainwater flush, a couple of methods are the installation kind of thing. Then you can just show you the pictures. How the youth also is involved. I will come to the youth a little later. See the teacher teaching about the water and sanitation kind of thing. We see the installation and the structure. Why well recharging? The benefits I said already. It improves the groundwater table, better water quality. And the unit cost for this 1,000 square feet is about $150. That's the cost part. For 1,000 square feet, under Indian condition, it costs about for the 1,000 square feet, $150. Now, before and after well recharging, you see on the left side before well recharging, it has got the problem of iron content. You see the right side, the same well. You see the pipe over there. So you can see at least visibly the change in the appearance of the water at least. Now you see the saline ingress water before and after well recharging. So this improves a lot, and the people take it up by their own. They understand. Initially we had a tough time because the people were not accepting the subject. Now this is important slide where Hyben and Herzberg relation. It's a table from the geology. In fact, when the groundwater table in the coast belts goes down, the likelihood of the saline ingress to the coast is 1:40. It depends upon the density of the water, the saline water as well as the fresh water in the coastal belt. This it was relevant 100 years back for the Europe and the America, but when you people had the wells, but still applicable for us because we have still the traditional wells. Now come to the point. Dental fluorosis in Kerala, we started to find this kind of issues, new emerging problem. For 8,000 children approximately, we face in Kerala from a couple of districts, Alapi and Palakkad, we face this problem. This is from the government statistics. Now, we are trying to test pilot it. We are trying to see whether it will improve the fluoride level or not by making use of roof rainwater harvesting that comes to the filter methods. There's a filter, it has got the charcoal and the gravel, the sand pebble kind of thing. And through this layer, it comes to the well. And once here, what's happening is dilution, simple dilution. When the morning when the judge was talking about the new cylinder, it seems so, in the seasonal. So in the fluoride level, we expect that when the rainwater goes to the well, the fluoride level can be reduced by way of dilution. And not only for the dug wells, it can be made use for the tube well. You will see the filter chamber over there in the black kind of tan. And from that, there is a tube well below, and there is a chamber in which that the roof water will come, then it will go to the bore well. So we expect that we are going to pilot it if it is permitted, if it is granted. So it's a cost-effective solution. It's on site. So we need to have the water quality test before installing, before the rain, during the rain, after the rain. So 3 times in a year we have to do this water quality test. So whether it improves or not, we need to understand. And you can see the picture of the wells, and so the water with the iron content as well as saline or the. Now, all this. We are trying to follow our HRB approach, treating at the source level in situ method. So sustainability, easy
Dr.
to install.
Joseph, one more minute.
Pardon me?
One more minute.
Yeah. So all this part we take care, and we are trying to give in the demonstration models and public participation access to information. We are expecting to do that. Now, this is okay. Once we come to know the result, if it is positively proved, we can scale it up. Okay. We have been awarded by the Denmark Agency Water Air Food Award. I think many of the agencies, the water persons, can apply for the award. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, one more forward, that is for the role of youth, I had to mention about that. The role of the youth has got the role to give education at the grassroots level for the water and sanitation. There is a missing gap. Instead of doing the research and documentation, they should live in the rural area. The youth has got the role for the water and sanitation literacy level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jost. And our next speaker I'd like to introduce is Mr. Hisashi Saito. He is a representative of an educational NGO for sustainability to the UN office at Geneva and to the World Trade Organization, involved in issues concerning environment, climate change, sustainable development, and education. He is regularly attending UN conferences such as HRC, UNFCCC COPE, energy-related meetings of UNECE, and others. He works together with various youth groups such as the Model UN Nations and Magna Forum to promote sustainable development. So please come to the floor.
Is it on? Oh, sorry. Okay. So it's a slide. How could I? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Dear organizers, moderator, judges, excellencies, my dear fellow participants, Educational NGO for Sustainability, Juventum is very much honored to be here. In the 1882 theater play, An Enemy of the People, Henry Gibson wrote, and this showed the hardship in standing up for the right cause against pollution. Now, this world is pickled in a lot worse pollution than in 1882. Only tiny actions have been taken, and are we finished? Or do we have a better attitude toward the same old issue in our society now? We are here to declare that we will start this movement to use drinking water quality analysis as a human rights indicator because it is the right thing to do. In this conference, this is the most appropriate place to launch our new action. From now on, we will be passionately talking about this everywhere, over and over again, so we highly welcome your comment at any moment. And here comes our project idea. And this was sort of inspired by my attending Human Rights Council many times. So drinking, the physiological requirement of water is the same to all humanity, and it has a potential to serve as one of the most objective standard measurements of a human rights situation we are living in. By analyzing the drinking water quality, we can map the geographical areas with this measurement. We can follow time course of disaster areas and the conflict zones, before, during, and after. However, with all those potentials, the bottleneck issues have been the cost of analysis and the lack of a standard specialized for the human rights purpose. To overcome some of the challenges in front of us, we want to get the helping hands of the youth, but not by demonstrating on the streets or speaking in the UN, but this time quietly working hard and polishing their professional skills in the laboratory. We seek university collaborations in order to incorporate the analysis as a part of education and issue academic credits. For instance, a requirement in analytical chemistry laboratory, or as a research in environmental science, bacteriology, and so on. We should constantly update to improve the standard and analysis. So, human rights-based approach, leaving no one behind, is the way of our empathy and compassion. We feel together, bring in wisdom, and discern the issues and try to solve them. So when we obtain the results, I can answer some of the technical issues in Q&A if you like, but I would like to go through the concept, and once the results of the analysis is available to us, then full disclosure of whatever we discover is must. Science and human rights experts will be consulted with the results, how to look at it. And we promote the awareness of the water issue among the students in the technical field through the participation in the projects. So these are the people we will excavate. And we trust this undiscovered population of youth to come up with future good ideas too. The analysis will establish a good human rights standard, and this will then contribute to the improvement of the quality of the water we drink. Everything we do is subjected to discussion based on precautionary principle and constant updating of the criteria and evaluation. Yes. And the scaling up, the quality of the work should never be compromised, and we will not quit. Therefore, we should rather flexibly rescale the starting size of the project according to the available resources. The water quality analysis standard should always be improved and updated. We need a good team to have productive discussions constantly. We should promote broader participation of states, universities, and students. State responsibility to protect its citizens. I think this is in Article 73 of the UN Charter, I guess. We will expand to cover more and more areas and situations. This project is related to so many other efforts presented in this conference. I am so happy to meet all of you, and we can have a further discussion to improve our idea. Let us keep in touch long and deep so that together we can achieve something. Thank you very much for your attention. And some of the questions on technical issues, I'm reasonably prepared, but I will always get back to you if I fail to answer this time. And yes, that's all. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Saito. I especially like your project, including young people in education and training. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lindsay. And considering the gender mainstreaming and the lens, our next presenter is Dr. Snehalta Mikala. She is working as Executive Director of South Asia Consortium for Integrated Water Resource Studies, and she has more than 20 years work experience in this sector. So I would like to request you, Ms. Snehalta, to please share with us your good experience about Leave No One Behind. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected judges, my colleagues, and the audience. It's in fact my privilege to be presenting this session, which is moderated by the youth, which are the future of the world. I think it's really very good platform for them to demonstrate their skills and prove to us their importance in future. And coming to my presentation today, though I'm the executive director of Saki Waters, today I'm wearing the hat of FANSA, that is Freshwater Action Network South Asia. It's a consortium of 400 plus CSOs working in 8 South Asian countries, which includes India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Maldives, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bhutan, sorry. So basically, most of the presentations since yesterday, what we have been hearing are very much technologically driven or talking about very much of an initiation which has a technical component. But today I'm going to present a case or a project which is talking about the local government, which is this action is led by the local government to translate the policy commitments and then how this sanitation progress can be inclusive in the process, especially focusing on the persons with disabilities. So just to give the context, in India, we have got a big flagship program called Swachh Bharat Mission, which is focusing on accessing the sanitation facilities to the people. So you can look at the graph where we are from 38% in 2014 to almost we are at 98% in the year 2018 and 19. So there's a good progress, good leadership, and a lot of emphasis on that. And there are also kind of commitments at the SACOSAN. SACOSAN is the inter-country regional platform of South Asia where the sanitation progress is reviewed by the ministerial delegations and then they present what has been achieved and then they also make commitments in future what they are planning to do. And then also to achieve the leave no one behind, we have got a fundamental right under article in the Constitution of India. And we have also got the Persons with Disabilities Act, which is in 1995. Everything focuses on inclusive efforts to make sure that there is access of toilets at household level and also at the community level. Just to give you a little bit more focus on the SACOSAN, though there is this inter-country delegation is there, the first 4 or 5 SACOSANs, where the FANSA represented the issues of leave no one behind at these conferences by making some evidence-based research and all that. People were not really, committed to do something about it. But it's only in the SACOSAN 4 when FANSA made an effort to bring the voices of these vulnerable groups directly to the ministerials. Like in a plenary session, all these disability groups belonging from transgender, physically challenged, and then tribal groups and indigenous groups, all these people represented their issues to the ministerial delegations, which made an impact and then resulted in the commitment where they said that it has to be prioritized and then most marginalized have to be given importance. Everything is fine, perfect, the commitments made. But what is the problem? The problem is that there are still lack of or inaccessible toilets for physically challenged and elderly. Especially elderly are again a set of groups who become almost children who kind of, require similar kind of assistance like children as they grow up. So though their needs are not being really articulated or very well thought of. And then you can see that boy in that picture. When we went for a field assessment in a rural area, this boy was there, and then when we were asking him, he said, I have to take help of one of my parents. If my parents goes away to the field, I have to wait till they return from the field. I can't go and access the toilet on my own. If at all, if there is an urgency, I go and then I sit like that waiting for my parents, and none of the other children come near me. So that's the kind of state of affair that a physically challenged person goes. And then you can see this man. He is defecating in a plastic cover. Because in their house, the other members do not like to use the toilet because it gets unhygienic because he stands and goes and then it's everything spill over and then he can't really pour the water and there is a difficulty in carrying the water from the other place to the toilet. So these are all the kind of difficulties. So he goes for an open defecation, but since there is like, even he is very sensitive about being pigs coming and attacking him. In fact, the picture had pigs also, which I removed. So he puts it in that and then he disposes. So these are the kind of challenges which are not known to the people or which are not been exposed so much that there is an empathetic understanding of how these issues are there and how these need to be addressed. Despite the policy commitments and despite the intergovernmental commitments and despite the acts and constitutional rights, the governments lack the capacity to translate these commitments into actions. They really don't know how to do these actions on the ground or how to make sure that these toilets are there for these physically challenged or the elderly groups are there. So ultimately, it again results in inequity and exclusion, which is again affecting the reach of the human rights. So what are we planning to do? What we want to do is to demonstrate a partnership approach with local governments to provide accessible, affordable, and non-discriminative toilets to elderly and PWD. What do we mean by the accessible? It is about the improved designs. It does not require too much money or it does not require too much of innovation. It could be a simple local innovation, which could be a kind of a chair of that height, which could be replaced on the Indian pan and then removed later when the elderly person used, so that they don't have to really worry about the toilet. Or it could be a railing next to the doors and then to the wall where they can handle it and go. Or it could be any other those local innovations which have a technical approval or technical expertise is needed. So that's what we want to talk about or get together as part of the accessible toilet through improved designs. And then affordable. Basically, this affordability again goes with the most marginalized and the people who are very vulnerable. To make sure that these are possible for these groups, we are trying, in this particular project, we are planning to pool the financial resources. There are some government subsidies and incentives are there, and then there are some community level initiatives that people could contribute to make sure that these marginalized groups can be mainstreamed. And then there are microcredit institutions are there, loans available. So basically we want to integrate and pool all these resources so that there is a fund available for people who needs it, which can address the issue of affordability. And then the non-discrimination. Again, how do we make that these people are respected when it comes to their use and access to the toilets? So basically sensitizing the households, communities, and the decision makers or the government officials involved in this whole process. So how do we want to do it? So we want to conduct a baseline for the need assessment. To do this, we already have a lot of experience as part of our SACOSAN experience of bringing the voices of unheard to these plenary sessions. And then we make a need assessment in identified blocks and the villages. And then we'll have a stakeholder consultation to arrive at an action plan where the government takes the lead. So the technical expertise and the CSOs and the communities and the village local bodies and all governance structure people are involved in this stakeholder workshop to arrive at a plan which needs to ensure that there is kind of both financial as well as technical resources are available so that the infrastructure is created at household level and also at the community level. Community level, I mean the marketplaces, the public places, or the bus stops and all those other accessible points. And after doing these things, we would like to have these pooled resources utilized for the creation of the facilities and bring these lessons to the national and regional platforms. So this is the kind of project that we would like to build. And then the results includes that the human right to access to sanitation is fulfilled for at least 300 persons with disability as part of this initiative. and there are improved capacities for the government to achieve the commitments made. I think this is the most important point of our initiation, where the governments can able to ensure that the capacity is retained with them. And this solution is mainstreamed in the sanitation programs of state of Telangana. And then there are replicable, affordable, and accessible technologies. List is available with the governments and then with the stakeholders. And this solution is validated through joint reviews. It's not that we say it is a success story, but everybody involved will also be part of these joint reviews. And then this story will be presented at the SACOSAN 7 so that the commitments can be realized, and then this lesson can be taken forward from there. And then in the scaling up process, we disseminate these at the subnational, national, and regional level. And then we are planning to have this at the 8th SACOSAN session for wider dissemination. And there are policy and program benefits to the government. And we partner with other governments in the region and then also with other sector players. And then we would like to share at these kind of international platforms to get more wider acceptance for this initiative so that the governments will have the confidence to take forward these kind of interventions in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mikala, for sharing your outstanding results of work in South Asia, especially Freshwater Action Network of South Asia, and sharing the sanitation poverty in India. I think the South Asia region is facing the same kind of problem, and which is the real problem to human rights around the world in developing countries. So thank you very much for sharing with us, and with the special request of Professor Dr. Mikala, I would like to also request Mr. Ramste Murali to join on stage, because he also worked on the same project and he is interested to respond to the question. And welcome Mr. Murali to be on stage, please. So ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to open the floor for audience as well as for our honorable judges to ask the questions to the presenter. But before going to that, I would like to also request, please be specific with your question, identify to who you are going to ask, and also my request is to presenter, please be focused with your answer. Thank you very much, and floor is open first to the judges. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Dominique Béraud from the World Meteorological Organization, so more on the hydrological monitoring and so on. I might have a question for all of you, actually, concerning the scaling up of the results, changing the regions, changing the scale of what you are implementing. Where do you see the greatest difficulties doing that? I think in your case, you even foreseen to implement that in Cameroon, am I right?
It's going to be
yeah. Where do you see the difficulties doing that? In the cultural problem, technical problems, financial issues?
Challenges. Right. Okay. The challenges are plenty, in fact. The challenge for the open well recharging through the roof rainwater housing, that will be presented in the next session, to be frank. So, but this came in first, the fluoride issue came first. Okay, so may give the answer from the next session rather. It's plenty. That the challenges, I would say that all of a sudden the people may not accept the subject, because the well water is precious for the people. They don't want to see that the bird dropping, the rainwater with the bird dropping that goes to the well. In the beginning years, in the year 2008, 8, 9, and 10, the people were not accepting it altogether. But later on, they gradually realized that this is good and it works. Then later on, by the year 2017, summer, it was a severe summer, the people really understood that, and then started many people doing that. It's workable, it improves. Then even the government took it up. Okay, thank you.
So it is concerning the scale up, or yes? Okay. So in terms of finance, we appreciate anything as much as possible, but this is something we can even start with pro bono with like-minded people. So we will rescale according to the resource available. And our focus is very, very narrow. And we just want to establish the standard, which is missing. And when we have a human rights discussion, then we, like for instance, the Human Rights Council, we hear the lack of toilet and how many minutes you have to walk to the water. But we almost never hear from diplomats that what's the quality of the water. So we just want to fill this gap. And therefore, the quality of the project is absolute foremost priority, that something we will never ever compromise. And then anything else, then we are still small and weak, so we may have to compromise where to sample and all that stuff. Thank you.
I think my colleague will answer that question.
Yeah, I'm responding in the capacity of co-author and co-designer of this project, regional convener of FANSA. I think in our case, the difficulty lies with the capacity of the local government. The local government, the subnational government is mandated with the responsibility of providing sanitation services for everyone, including the persons with disability. But though they have made commitments at the higher level, the local level personnel responsible for implementation of sanitation programs lack sensitivity, responsiveness, understanding. Thereby, there is lack of dedicated effort. What kind of very specialized, dedicated effort is required to ensure sanitation services are reaching the persons with disability? That is what we are trying to tackle through this particular initiative.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Raffel, I'm not going to ask you a question because I'm going to wait until the second part of your presentation. Is that okay? All right. As to the project of FANSA, I think it's great that you're asking attention for disabled people. Now, do you already have things in mind that you could actually propose or discuss with the stakeholders so that they have an idea on what they're actually choosing or not choosing, or spending their money on? Secondly, you say pooling resources. Could you explain that a little bit more, where you think those resources would come from? Who would actually bring it to the table and manage it? And maybe you answer first, and then I'll go to your colleague.
Yeah. In terms of technical solutions, how to make sure that the toilets which are already constructed can be further improved to ensure that they are accessible for members of the same family who have got the disability. It is not one integrated kind of solution. It has to be a disability-specific solution. We need to understand what is the disability of the person in that family and what kind of simple intervention will make the toilet accessible for that person. So we are not suggesting one integrated solution, which will also be expensive and very complicated kind of. That's one. Number two, it is the responsibility of the person as well as the family, to the extent they can afford to contribute for implementing the solution. They should first take the initiative, the family and the person who has the disability. But there are also incentives available under Swachh Bharat Mission from government side. And we want to partner with the local government and leverage those incentives for specifically meeting the sanitation needs of the person with disability. Plus, in every village or even the urban areas also, we have slum level federations which have got microcredit institutions, the networks of women self-help groups. So they can be sensitized to provide low-cost loan products to meet the sanitation needs of the persons with disability. So we are taking into consideration all the three resources, all the three sources to be able to finance the solution that we want to implement at the family level and community level.
And who would manage the money coming in?
There is a kind of ongoing mechanism through which the government provides incentive to the individual family. and the loan will be directly by the family member drawing the loan from the microcredit institution. So it will be the family. If government, the money goes from the government to the family.
Okay, thank you.
The whole initiative will be led by the FANSA. The Secretariat will be overseeing all these things and then facilitate the process. And another point that I would like to compliment the explanation that is given by my colleague, that there are a lot of agencies which are already working on these disability-friendly solutions. So we would like to partner with all those organizations. So when we said stakeholder consultation meeting, this is the meeting where we would like to invite all those people who are working on all these solutions as well, so that they can offer the choices to the people, which could be modified with the local materials and then local resources. Thank you.
Very clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
On the research and standard, Mr. Saito, I'm not completely sure what you're actually proposing to do. Because I appreciate the fact that you want to involve your students, younger people, to help and do the actual research. But doing research and developing a standard are two very different things. And we have loads of standards in the world on water quality. Maybe we even have too many. So my question is, what in the end would be your result, your offer to the community, basically?
Okay, so first of all, there are many standards. So WHO, EPA, EU, many countries. But we can always start with one standard. So let's say WHO. But the WHO standard has a particular purpose to set out. So then this can be complemented with the other standards. So we do have to have a research team to consider what is the appropriate standard for the lead or mercury or arsenic. And these things, we should not compromise the quality. So this means that we will take the most precautionary approach and what is the most relevant, and we will constantly update our criteria based on the literature search of the newest environmental science. So this part is a research, and we do need a research group. And what I mentioned with the students is the actual analysis part. So usually the analysis and research is done by the same people. But we could cut the cost of analysis by asking the students to do it as an educational program. And if somebody questions about the quality of analysis, then we can split the water sample into smaller volume and have a repetition to maintain the accuracy. So then students can still use this material as a study material to grow professionally.
Can I say this in my own words and see if it's correct? I get the impression that what you want to do is collect and analyze the existing guidelines and standards on water quality, regardless of the source. So it could be water related, it could be chemicals related, it could be anything. And out of those, sort of make a harmonized, shorter version that would be understood in the framework of the human right to water and sanitation. Is that what you want to do?
Well, if I misunderstood your question, please correct me. But there are numerous standards, and we would like to end up with the best of the best standard in each category. So when we look at the bacteria, then we don't just look at the E. coli, but we can look at the Salmonella or spore-producing bacteria or viruses and any of these things. But certain standard, they have a specific focus and urgent need, and they were not perfect. So we can complement each other, and we will refine for the best for our purpose in the use of human rights. So then basically we have to keep updating the standard and let it grow and evolve. So the later the stage, then our standard will be more refined.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir. And now I would like to open the floor for the audience. But I would love to request, you have questions, sir? But we are running with, okay, sir, thank you, I'm sorry. Take away.
Thank you. I had a similar question to Mr. Saito as leisure, but in the interest of time, I'll skip those. My question to the other two panelists are about the local governments, because the human rights-based approach, we look at the roles and duties of the government actors to act. So to the first, Mr. Jols, unfortunately, you were a little bit rushed towards the end. So I'd like to know a little bit more about how you're going to work with the local government and what's your assessment of their capacity and openness to your project in terms of scaling up. And my second question for the FANSA is that I understand that your analysis is a lack of capacity of the government, but can we go a little bit deeper into that? You talk about persons with disability, but are there other factors that affect the equal access among these groups? For example, gender, or we didn't talk so much about girls and young women, people of the schedule, caste, etc. So how can we have sort of a differentiated approach within that persons with disability to make the local authorities be more responsible for them? Thank you.
Okay, may I start with? Okay, it's regarding local governments. In fact, the whole program is through the local government. So the chairman of this society is the district collector, that means the head of the district. So with his capacity, at the district level, all local governments, we have got 80 local governments within the districts. So the government sanctioned a scheme to implement through the local government with the government subsidy, particularly for the poor people. So it's being implemented with a subsidized component through the local government. And our role is to give capacity, giving training for the not only for the local government representative, also for the beneficiaries at the grassroots level, who are the beneficiaries for the schemes. So the capacity building and of course is taken care, and the local government is we mobilize the funds from the local governments as well. So it's well taken for that.
Yeah, I think it's not just disability which is causing exclusion. There are overlapping factors. I think your observation is very right. The overlapping factors such as poverty, remoteness of the area where these people are living. There are several other factors. So the degree of facilitation support required from our intervention would also vary according to this vulnerability. Probably the disabled persons from better off families have already found at least a partial solution because they have got capacity to invest some resources for that. So through this particular initiative, we would like to reach out to the bottommost. And that is where we need to facilitate that experience for the local government. How do we really deal with the issues of such most vulnerable communities? It is a process-intensive approach that we intend to adopt, through which we can gain experience, ourselves gaining experience, as well as the local government, so that we can continue to work in a meaningful way on that issue.
Okay, so thank you very, very, very much, honorable judges and presenter. And I do apologize because we have not enough time to take questions from the floor. Please forgive us, please. And now I would like to request to Honorable Mr. Desmond Gerger to take over. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you to the presenters and judges and moderators. And thank you, Lindsay and Masif. Our next session theme is rural areas and climate change. Our moderator is Celia Bedoya, the Inter-American Development Bank.
Okay, thanks so much. So we're starting the last session of the day and the summit before the closing. The human rights approach has a strong focus on services, on making water and sanitation a service accessible and available for all. But for doing so, one of the key factors we must consider is water security. I'm going to read the definition of water security that UN Water has worked in. Water security is the capacity of a population to safeguard sustainable access to adequate quantities of acceptable quality water for sustaining livelihoods, human well-being, and socioeconomic development, for ensuring protection against waterborne pollution and water-related disasters, and for preserving ecosystems in a climate of peace and political stability. So as you see, this definition is totally intertwined with the human rights approach and with its criteria, like the availability of water, the acceptability, the quality of services, the sustainability. So it has a lot in common. In this context of climate change, water scarcity is growing. One of the only water sources that is growing is wastewater. So preliminary data from the UNEP in this case tell us that one of each 3 rivers have severe pathogen pollution in Latin America, in Africa, and in Asia. 1 in 7 rivers globally have severe organic pollution, and 1 in 10 have problems, moderate or severe, of salinity. So these problems, of course, cultivate inequality, as they usually affect most to the poor people, to women, and to children. In this session, we're going to talk a little bit how local communities are facing these aspects, are facing these issues, and are finding solutions for these challenges. So I'm going to invite to the presenters to the stage, to the 3 of them all together, so that they can come to the stage, please. Thank you. So we're going to start with our first project. He is from India. Mr. Jose Rafael comes from the District Rainwater Harvesting Mission and is presenting this initiative. Mr. Jose is the secretary of Mathapolima, that's the good way to say it, in the District Harvesting Mission in Kerala State since 2019. He has extensive experience in the water sector in India, having published in the subject widely, particularly in rainwater harvesting, which relates to the experience he's bringing us today, that it's about how rainwater can help with water security and water quality in coastal communities where salinity is a major problem for groundwater in this case. So thank you. You can start the presentation.
Yeah, no? Right. Hope that I'll get 10 minutes. There's a bit of repetition is there. I think when I presented the first time, a couple of people were not here. I do it a bit fast, as nature-based local water security solution for water quality and resource improvement. Well, introduction is over. Now, I just already show that I just only mentioned roof rainwater harvest for well reach, and I'll bit skip. I hope that it will not be rushing. When it comes to the relevant slide, I'll stop and explain with time. Okay. This all I explained already. I don't want to explain it again. It's a climate change adaptation technique. This I explained. And now, all right, this is, I think, okay, roof rainwater harvesting that comes through the filter that go to the dug well. Now you can see the live model. You see the filter over there. The charcoal is there in the filter. This I explained. Now we come. Now water and sanitation education is given to the children. Now see without filters also we can direct the roof rainwater. You see the first flash wall which is called as. After the couple of rains, we can close the cap over there, so that then fresh rainwater will be going into the well. Some cases the people may not require the filter. Some people say they want the filter. It depends upon the social acceptability. You see, all all sections of society have been taken, well taken, this technique. Now, this you see, it's all not necessary to harvest roof rainwater and put it into the well. There are other methods of recharging the well through percolation pits around the well. This is another method. Through percolation pits also we can make through that. Sometimes the households may not like to direct the roof rainwater into the well, or sometimes they may not like the subject. So the surface runoff can be directed to the percolation pits around the well. It's like artificial feeding of the well. Now, many people has got tube wells. So we can harvest roof rainwater that can go to the tube well. I explained it in the next. All sorts of monitoring is the water quality, and before and after water quality tests are taken care of. And community participation, of course, was there in the beginning, to be frank with you. It's not that easy to talk about community participation card. But in this case, each household has got their own well. So there is no big matter of community participation. To be frank with you, they have to only to maintain the whole installation. That's only the participation basically they require. So even otherwise, in the beginning, we have given enough classes at the grassroots level and the training. But later on, it has come through the newspaper and so on and so forth. The people have come to know about that. So it has become, it's mainstream rather. Plenty of training programs have been conducted so far. And it's suitable for all rural communities, definitely, and gender friendly. There is no much complication at all. It's simply putting the rainwater into the well. And a lot of training has been given for the women, particularly for, it's a plumber's job. There is no big deal at all. Then a lot of IEs, information, education, communication efforts gone through in this, the whole activity, notices, posters, banners, roadshows, and so on and so forth. Some in the exhibitions we conduct water quality tests and so thing. And road shows are the farmers visit. And the result is that I explained earlier 30,000 well recharging units implemented till the last year, and we stopped telling the numbers because people have taken it their own. We don't know how many people doing it all. So it has become at the government, as I said, government taking it up. We don't know the numbers. So many people doing it, the things like that. The water level and water quality improved, and saline increase and iron content, all these things are reduced. And countless number of units have been installed by people, household themselves now. The monitoring is done, not the water quality kind of thing as the all the more important is the impact assessment done by Center for Water Resource Development Management, the government institute. We entrust the government institute to conduct the impact assessment. We did not do that because some people may think that you may make manipulations. So we entrust the government institution, you do that. You come up with whether it's good or not, it works or not. They came up with the result that it is workable, it is replicable to scale up all the districts. That's why the government took it up to scale it up. Okay. Now to scale up beyond the state and beyond and for the rural areas of developing countries, I'm sure that many of the developing countries have got the dug wells, still they are alive. So what more to be done is we need to revive these shallow aquifer and traditional water well. We need not abandon them in the name of bacteriological contamination. We can think about some other methods. The local rural waters to be revived, not leave, okay. Then in many parts of the world, these kind of wells are there. And in the case of tube wells, they need to be repaired. So that's a local water security solution. So well has got a bigger role to play in the rural areas. So this part, we can't leave them behind. Right, then second is the recharging, the whole thing I mentioned, but this is site-specific, soil-specific, slope-specific, and sometimes social-specific. The social acceptance is a big, important subject. So all these S we need to take into care. Step 3, disinfection measures to be taken require for making these wells as protected water bodies. We can make use of the chlorination, and as we do here, in Kerala, we can boil the water before making use of that. And but the government, our Kerala government is doing that, and the national government of India also may try. Some projects are coming up. Wider campaigns are required to help the rural people in the developing countries to save these wells. We need not abandon them. So all the international agencies can play. And as I said, we have been awarded for Denmark agency, just courtesy for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rafael, for bringing us this project, which combines a little bit all this technology, but also all the social aspects around it and the engagement of the local communities. So we're going to go to our second presentation of today. We had to make a last-minute change in the agenda, so we are very lucky to bring Mr. Beris Gwyn from Incitare, which is an open and inclusive platform promoting strategic foresight and anticipatory leadership, brokering innovative partnerships. That's a great definition. So Mr. Beris is going to talk about wetlands and how this nature-based solution can help improving water quality. And it's been widely used, so she's going to tell us a little bit about it at a regional level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm somewhat in awe of the expertise that's in the room, and I'm also somewhat hesitant to be producing solutions that reflect just a repetition of what we've known already for the last 20 or 30 or even more years. But it is important for us, I think, to begin with a recap that wetlands are often less well recognized as an important contributor to improved water quality and availability, particularly for remote communities. They are one of the most productive of the natural systems supplying fresh water, food, and materials, and good wetlands management aids flood control, groundwater recharge, and climate change mitigation. So we're dealing with the benefits of wetlands protection and renewal at several different levels. Sadly, these facts have been known for many, many years, but globally wetlands are being destroyed 3 times faster than forest land, and when we see or anticipate the effects of climate change, this suggests to me that a refocusing on wetlands and wetlands protection is going to be even more important. How can we use a rights-based approach, a human rights-based approach, to engage and support local communities? This is clearly an essential starting point, but I emphasize it's a starting point because local communities operate within a broader context, and often the externalities are such that they can quickly override the success that we have had in working at the community level. But there are opportunities for us to engage in awareness raising, in training programs, in involving local communities in the collection of data, in monitoring and reporting, using all of the digital technology advantages that are available to us. Again, we've seen so many of these projects come and go, but it's time for us, I think, to reflect on the results of community engagement and connect those results to what is needed now globally as we move to scale up. So I just want to refresh that we celebrate local connections to natural resources because they have often, through traditional knowledge, been the stewards of these wetlands for centuries. That they also, regardless of issues of ownership, have the greatest sense of identification with the areas concerned, and so the greatest stake in protecting and investing in the retention of those wetlands. We reinforce local rights to advance the inequality reduction agenda as well as the sustainability agenda. By having the local communities leading in measuring and tracking, we have an important source of indicators which we can, I think, take to new levels of sophistication because of the technologies available, allowing the local people to be truly the owners of the process. And with this improved understanding of the social, environmental, and economic benefits of wetland improvements in life and in livelihoods, then we have opportunities to take some of these activities to scale. I'd like to come back to the benefits to remind ourselves that it's not just about drinking water quality and availability to people in another location. It reflects the interdependency of systems, so that whether we are local or global, all of us have a stake in protecting wetlands. And if we refuse to accept the challenges of the inequality agenda, then we're going to miss the boat on opportunities to scale up. This is where I'd like to suggest that there are now places for us to connect communities respectfully, honouring their primary role, to other stakeholder groups at national, regional and global levels. And importantly, their active involvement in the monitoring and tracking and reporting on the local situation is extremely important in terms of encouraging evidence-based policy reform, in helping us to broker engagement with new investors, public or private, and also to make sure that we are building and strengthening the interconnectedness between communities. Finally, why this project and why now? There is, I see, a greater understanding of the implications for humanity in human rights of a failure to behave more responsibly towards the natural environment, which is essential to our existence. This is not about people in other places behaving in more responsible ways. It's a collective role. There's also, with the Sustainable Development Goals, a commitment to addressing inequality, which we've tended to skate over in the past. We need to recognise the externalities that I referred to before that are not just keeping hundreds of millions in poverty without access to reasonable and basic standards of living, but also have implications for us globally. The growing body of evidence of the multiple contributions of wetlands to ecosystems and their remarkable ability to recover if we help them to do so is already with us. Indeed, there are, in developing country contexts now, more and more applications of nature-based solutions which draw on the biomimicry which we've seen and observed in wetlands in other places. So these improved measures of social, environmental and economic impact give us a shared agenda to do something to restore wetlands globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beris, for your presentation on highlighting the importance and the usefulness of wetlands So we're moving to our last project. It has the honor to be the last project of the day and of the summit. And we're moving to another side of the world, to Mexico. Aquileo Hernández he brings the experience of the CIEMAD, the Centro Interdisciplinario de Investigaciones y Estudios sobre Medio Ambiente y Desarrollo, a center for environment and development from Mexico. Aquileo Hernández has a master's degree on environmental and sustainability studies and has a strong experience in environmental studies to preservation, conservation, and mitigation of anthropogenic impact. Industrial and domestic wastewater is usually discharged without treatment to water bodies, polluting rivers and lakes, and impacting ecosystems and the biodiversity and human health. The CIEMAD is establishing a water quality monitoring system in the river Atoyac. And Aquileo is going to tell us a little bit more about this monitoring platform. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. And my name is Aquileo Hernández. I'm coming from a Center of Environmental Science, and I want to explain about 2 innovative and smart ways to improve the wastewater management in the river Atoyac, central Mexico. Okay, the Atoyac River in central Mexico covers an area of 4,000 square kilometers and is the 2nd most polluted in the country. The pollutants are mainly from the untreated and industrial wastewater. It receives 200 tons of pollutant per day, and the volume of water is about 300 million of cubic meters of water per year, between meteorical and non-meteorical water. There are more than 14,000 high industries in the region that include the small, medium, and large companies. In addition, the wastewater treatment in plants present in the basin is not enough in order to clean all the water. The Atoyac River pollution had created negative effects over the human population in the basin, for example, health problems and contamination of agricultural products. The Atoyac River pollution is a problem, but we have other problems in the basin, the hydric stress. The hydric stress is other issue in the basin because of the overall exploitation of aquifers. The groundwater is the main source of drinking water for the population, and all water extracted from the aquifers is used and drained with a poor treatment to Atoyac River. And thus is results on an inadequate wastewater management based on an irregular sampling and programmed visits to high industries. For this reason, it's necessary to change the traditional wastewater management to a smart management in which can be efficient and accessible. But what is the idea? In this picture, we can see the basin, Atoyac Basin. We have the volcanoes, we have the high industries, have the population of the Puebla Basin, and we have the high industries with the wastewater discharges. And the small houses are the water quality monitoring systems. Since 2013, the Puebla government installed the water quality monitoring system in order to preservation, conservation, and improvement of wastewater, and improvement the water quality in the river. But these monitoring stations have the capacity to measure temperature, pH, conductivity, turbidity, ORP, dissolved oxygen, spectral absorption coefficient, nitrates, color, the total dissolved solids, and level. Every 3 minutes. Every 3 minutes we have this information, and this information is shared by internet through different computers. You can watch the information only with a username and the password. And the information generated is processed through time series analysis. And we discover the existence of anomaly values associated with untreated wastewater discharges in the basin. And the innovation in the use of real-time monitoring system is the detection of pollution events and the identification of pollutant sources. We have some pictures, and the first is the monitoring station. After we have the inside of monitoring stations, we have the data in 1 month. And this is possible after to the pollution detection. We take a sample of this water and to analyze in laboratory with more than 115 parameters, like heavy metals, anions, organic compounds, dyes, pesticides, and fats and oils and solvents. After that, we process with multivariate statistical techniques to identify the possible pollution sources. This information is compared with the geographical information system about the type of high industries and the uses of the land and other information over the population. About to the microbasin, the picture in the map there is a explication about the microbasins, which are drained directly to monitoring stations. We have 12 monitoring stations in the basin. And with this information, we want to identify the provenance. The next step is the creation of a library of pollutant events until we can identify the source in real time. The final stage is the creation of a public policy based on a combination between detection of pollution events, multiparametric analysis in field and laboratory, statistical analysis to identify the source, and the geographical information system to know specific information about the basin. Now, the results. We had analyzed many pollution events, and now we have this information. We have the main pollution source in the basin, the textile high industry, after the automobile, petrochemical high industry, agricultural high industry, and after is reflected the soil erosion and the natural contribution of the geology in the basin. This is a smart way for wastewater management because it uses less time to visit high industry and in order to apply the environmental laws. But the idea is the creation or continue with the library of anomalies and the creation of a public policy. The public policy have to contain many points. One of the most important is the revaluation of water resources, reminding the words of Anna Den Smith. Nothing is more useful than water, but it will purchase scarce anything. Scarce anything can be in exchange for it. A diamond, on the contrary, has a scarcity value in use, but is a very great quantity of the goods may frequently be had exchanged for it. But nowadays, the water is scarcity in many parts in the world. And we have to take necessary action to revaluation this resource. The government must require the high industry to treat the wastewater. The society must to require the wastewater treatment in market products, and the high industries must include the wastewater treatment in their product process. The public policy must include the mainstreaming. The care of the water must be relevant in all sectors, just primary, secondary, and tertiary, and all government levels. Also, it has to be inclusive. All social levels should to participate, and their opinions must be respected. Human rights for a healthy environment and access to clean water, to clean drinking water, have to be reestablished in the basin. If the water quality at Atoyac improves, it can be used for other activities according to the quality. The resilience. We have to be resilient at the changes caused due to the development societies. It can be possible through the smart ways to preservation of the water resources. Finally, the climate change is the result of anthropogenic activities, and it requires action for the environment preservation, which will be sustainable, intelligent, available, and reproducible. The detection of pollution events, identification of source and localization of wastewater discharges in the river is a smart way to wastewater management in developing countries with the rapid growing of industrialization and population. It can be useful in Mexico and other countries with the same problem of pollution in the rivers. Thank you for all.
Thanks so much, Aquileo. Wastewater, contamination of water bodies in Latin America is a big challenge. I can imagine like in other regions globally. So this presents a solution, or at least an assessment on how to work on that. So I'm going to pass it to the judges. I think to Mr. Ada, Alessia, Dominique. I don't know who wants to start or...
Okay, this time I will start so that I won't be left behind. It's been a very rich day of presentations and ideas, and as a judge, I just want to challenge you and come back to this main theme of leaving no one behind. And I will just like ask you to just make, very in simple words, how does your project contribute to leave no one behind? Very short pitch.
I think in this case maybe they can answer it directly. No, I think it's so. If the presenters, I don't know who wants to start. Mr. Rafael, maybe you.
Okay. My attempt is to not leave anyone behind, to be frank, because I'm particularly focusing the rural areas and the distant, the poor people in the developing countries. So I hope that the wells and the tube wells, modern tube wells also, to a certain extent, they will give the local water security for the people. So I believe that the people will not be left behind.
Okay, I think this project contribute about to leaving no one behind, because in developing countries we have the pollution problems and the water scarcity, and we have to take care about the big water resources that we have. For example, the water quality monitoring system and this smart waste in order to improve the wastewater management is the way to recover a polluted river that in the future can be an important water drinking supply, maybe.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent question. Thank you very, very much. In the presentation on wetlands, one of the points of emphasis that I tried to make was around the inequality agenda. Because one of the dangers that I see is that the inequality, the unequal access to resources means that wetlands in wealthy countries or more advanced countries receive adequate protection and attention, typically because of the activities of environmentalists. So those who have a stake in the protection of the wetlands in the so-called more advanced economies do well, but there is a concentration of wetlands which are the livelihoods and life of very large numbers of people who are not well off. And the danger is that those in that unequal distribution of power don't receive the support they need, and in fact they are at the mercy of big developers, industry, the kinds of polluters that we heard about previously. So coming back from the inequality agenda to make sure if we are looking at wetlands, we need to focus on those that are most at risk, that we need to empower or to work with the community so that they can have the evidence to demonstrate what's going on, so that they are able to protect themselves in relation to some of the externalities that I mentioned.
Thank you, Veris. Alessia?
Yes, I would have a question on the wetlands project. I saw a lot of text like awareness, monitoring, this kind of activity. I would have expected something on payment for eco-services and payment for services to the ecosystem, which is typically a source of income for the people who live in the wetlands. Or the aspect that lots of times the wetlands are seen as, oh, this is marginalized lands anyway, so what's the value of keeping people there, because there's no visible economic factor. So maybe you can elaborate on that one a little bit more. And concerning the wastewater, I appreciate the fact that you want to try and measure. What was not completely clear for me is how do you assess the impact on the people living near the water bodies you're talking about, and what this would do for instance, for their health or for their safety.
Okay, thank you very much. If I could respond in two ways. The first is to refer to the fact that some of the approaches that are being used to protect or repair or regenerate wetlands are actually scalable as business models at community level. The technologies can be used by local factories, by local schools, by local clinics, by municipalities, and that is on a cost recovery or not for loss basis. So that there is at that level an ability to make this not an environmental tax, but to make sure that people who are benefiting from that local process of cleaning up wetlands or protecting wetlands are actually contributing to it. But my second point comes back to the inequality agenda, which is the kind of polluter pays principle, which those who are most responsible for damaging wetlands should shoulder the greatest share of responsibility for contributing to their protection and to their repair. So it would be a situation where I think sometimes the linking of local with the international movements would help us to find a common solution where people who have the greater capacity to contribute would do so, but not without, not at the price of taking responsibility away from the local community as well. So these are fundable and, to me, sustainable business models from local to global, but the inequality agenda has to be addressed.
Okay, this is an interesting question. And the impact of overpopulation in the basin is published in many 2 or 3 articles about the effects of pollution in Atoyac River. And in addition, the improvement of water quality in the river depends on the improvement of wastewater management in order to stop the pollution and start to mitigate the effects of overpopulation.
Thank you. So we go to the third set of questions. Mr. Dominic? Dominic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I might have one single question concerning the actors and practical actors. So who, for you, who can maintain your system, especially the filtration and so on? And let me just finish on for the monitoring for the two of you. So who can use your system? What kind of skills are required for that? And for you, Madame, for wetlands, so who can ensure that monitoring of wetlands, and what kind of tools are required for that?
Right. Regarding the installation over the roof and the maintenance of the whole system is done by the households themselves. If they are not doing that, that's likely that it may collapse. In case if they are not well informed about the benefit of the whole program, there are chances that it may not work. Sometimes when the local governments select the beneficiaries for the scheme, they may not sometimes are not interested. But in the list of beneficiaries, we implement late 1 year, we see that the system collapsed. And there are issues like that. In some cases, when the people belong to below poverty line, when their economic level, standard of living improve, they may remove their roof structure, they may improve. Then the whole things get not seen unused. There are challenges like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's an interesting question because the river is polluted and we have the monitoring network. The local government required to National Polytechnic Institute the study of time series analysis of the information that they recollect. The actual management of the wastewater in the basin don't use this information. For this reason, we want to improve the wastewater management through the public policy, and we want to present this public policy, and we want the actual wastewater management use this information to improve the management.
Sorry, thank you very much for your question. My response is that the solution in terms of both management and resourcing is really context specific, as you would know. Depends very much on who the major stakeholders are, where the locus of power is, for us to be able to decide what would be the most inclusive way and the most equitable way of assuring that the monitoring takes place. My only suggestion would be to look at examples where through multi-stakeholder processes there is an accompanied brokering of improved relationships, and through an acceptance of mutual responsibility, over time the development of mutual accountability. Because only to have the community monitoring makes no sense if the more powerful players are just going to dismiss the results. But similarly, to appoint a foreign university or a private consulting company that might actually be paid by local business, clearly there has to be an openness and a shared responsibility to collecting that information. Just one last thing quickly. The data collection nowadays with technology really can be low cost. With so much access that people have to mobile phones, a smiley face or a button to press, it's possible to mobilize. And other sectors, health, agriculture, have done climate change monitoring, similar things that I think could be applied.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if there are, we have a few minutes left, so let's see if we have any questions from the public for this session. Okay.
Thank you. Just a quick question to the wetlands presentation. So I saw that it was mentioned that the wetlands also contribute to climate change mitigation. I was just wondering what is the link there, because I assume that some wetlands will probably also be actually producing methane and therefore maybe not actually contributing to mitigation. But I was just wondering whether you can clarify what the link is. Thank you.
On the science, you're right. Of course, there would be contrary indicators. I was thinking more in terms of ecosystems, forestation, to look for the balance of where there might be, while there might be emissions, then also to look at what microclimate conditions would apply. I'm drawing, I suppose, more on reforestation processes, which we know have led to drought-proofing certain areas. And so I'm imagining that there might be some comparable science connected to the wetlands process. There may be other wetland science people here who could speak to that. It's a good question.
Okay, so we have 3 questions more in the public, but I think I'm not able to do all of them, so I'm going to do only one to the lady who first requested it. I'm very sorry for the rest and that we cannot attend, but we're running out of time. Thank you.
Question is to the on wetlands. So wetlands itself has multiple, facets. Wetlands is a complex natural resource system falling in the lap of land resource systems at times and water resource systems at times, oftentimes in an identity crisis. And that's the very kind of a paradox of maintaining healthy wetland systems. So your opinion on protected versus unprotected there's a dichotomy of how it works. And then also about its interfacing system, where the wetland is interfacing with food production, interfacing with biodiversity conservation, interfacing with livelihood generation. So it's like something we really can't have one-size-fits-all strategy.
Sorry, my apologies. Just quickly on that one. My recent work has been in the field of strategic foresight and complexity thinking, which speaks to exactly what you've just described. Over the last 20 or 30 years, we've sometimes specialized to the point of losing touch with related areas of activity, and we struggle to have integrated processes. Another example would be IWRM, where we just know that it's really hard to get everybody to have everybody else's interests in mind. The only solution I have to that is to incentivize working together. And that's why I referred to the fact that there are new forms of financing emerging, ranging from blended financing, results-based financing, all the way through to impact investing. And people somehow come together quite quickly if they think there might be money for all of their interests. But it does require very skillful negotiation at the nexus between the competing interests in order to come to a conclusion. I don't think it's ever going to be an easy process because of exactly the complexity that you describe. But somehow people seem to be more willing, if they're not fighting over resources among themselves, but actually trying to build something that will at least meet more of the goals than just one individual set. So I'd be happy to talk to you later about where some of that opportunity might be.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think I have more time, Amanda. We just have to, I don't know if we have a few more minutes for some questions or not. No.
Okay. My question to my friend from India, he spoke in the first presentation about the fluoride and in the well. So what is the comparison have you done before and after rain harvesting? Because 0.7% of fluoride can be very harmful for the dental. So what is the state before and what is your, because you have not done the pilot projects so far, but what you expect after that? Can I have a short answer, please?
Okay,
Thank you.
very quick answer.
It has to be below 1 ppm. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks so much. So we have to close here. We heard a little bit how local communities are fighting for their water security so that the populations can exercise their human rights. One of the three things, the things that have in common all these solutions are that are nature-based, and they work with nature, and they enhance nature to help them in fighting for water security. And as one of the astras of the presentations put it, and I really like that sentence, are solutions to keep nature undisturbed. I really like that. So with this, we close it, and we close all the sessions related to presentations of projects. I hand the micro to the MC. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Thank you very much, presenters, judges. Thank you to our moderator, Celia. There's a small change in the schedule. We are going to take a 20-minute break, and the time now is, what time? Whoops. Time now is 3:13. If we come back at 20 minutes, 3:33. The reason for the break is that the scientific committee is going to convene in the press room to make some final decisions as to who gets the awards. All right, so we'll sit there. I just took a look. There does appear to be coffee and tea outside, so we'll be back at 3:33. Thank you.